You're watching HQ Spotlight, and we are talking about LSU football. Brian Kelly entering year 4 with the Tigers, and the expectations for LSU football, they are sky high, and for a reason, because, you know, if you think about it, the previous 3 head coaches at LSU, they won a natty within their first 4 seasons as the head coach of the Tigers. So, hey, we're entering year 4 for Brian Kelly. What's going to happen? Coming off of a 9-4 season, 5-3 in the SEC. And the season kicks off with a bang coming up, a season opener against Clemson on August 30th. And we know that LSU has struggled in that department, has lost 5 straight season openers. So let's welcome on Go247's Glen West and our college football analyst Tom Fornelli for an early outlook for LSU football. So for LSU, where the expectation is to win a natty, even get to the CFP in this day and age in college football, right? It feels like we need to see more from the defensive side of the ball. So Glenn, are the pieces in place on defense for the Tigers to make a deep CFP run for the upcoming season?
Yeah, well, this entire offseason, the words of Brian Kelly and these players have been, they haven't minced them at all. It's playoffs or bust for them. They are going for the whole thing this year, and that obviously starts on the defensive side of the ball with LSU. They have got to be better, and what they did this offseason in terms of the transfer portal players that they attacked, guys that come in with Power 4 experience out of the SEC, out of the Big Ten, out of the ACC. They have gone after some veteran experience, and they have paid a pretty penny for it. They are absolutely all in on this roster this year, and for LSU, a team that has not been very good defensively the last 3 years, let's face it, they feel like they're going to get back to their hallmark way of winning with this defense and some of the players they've brought in. They've really attacked the edge rushers. They've gone into the secondary and gotten some impact cornerbacks and safeties, guys that are going to be able to come in and immediately help this roster be a playoff and a championship contender in 2025.
Yeah, when you've watched the LSU defense in the last few years, especially in the secondary, it has been kind of glaring considering LSU's tradition and history of producing great defensive backs, how many problems that they've had on the back end. And if you look at them statistically last year, the pass rush was pretty good. They had a high pressure rate, they had a good sack rate, but they really had difficulty stopping the run for one, and also giving up big plays. They came in last in the SEC in explosive play rate allowed on defense. And that is one of those things where they really need to take care of that, or else it's going to be very difficult for them to take a major step forward in the SEC this year and to accomplish those goals of winning the SEC, getting to the playoff, and competing for a national title. It's a huge thing that they need to fix.
All right, so if we look at this team in its totality and all the position groups, Glenn, which one needs to develop the most as we head into fall camp here in order for LSU to go to the playoffs and have that success that they have on the bulletin board that they want to get to for the upcoming season?
Yeah, I'm going to shift to the other side of the ball here. And for me, when you're having to replace 4 starters on your offensive line, 4 NFL draft picks from last year, this is going to be an immensely important offseason for this offensive line, for Brad Davis, for all of these guys that are kind of young and up-and-comers into the program. They went out into the transfer portal and got 2 guys, interior lineman Josh Thompson out of Northwestern, center Braylon Moore out of Virginia Tech. But I think the majority of this thing is going to have to be done in-house in terms of their internal development over the next couple of months. The defensive line absolutely won the spring for LSU, and you know, it's not an entire a complete surprise given how much they're having to replace on this offensive line, but it also just sheds a little bit more light onto how much that group needs to improve over the next couple of months. So that's going to be really important for those guys to lock in, get with Brad Davis, who's one of the best technicians in the country. So it's going to be really important for them to develop over the next couple of months. And going into the fall, that's really the group that I think needs to take the biggest step as we look ahead to fall camp and what LSU is going to have to do on the offensive side of the ball in the fall.
What about the weapons on offense? Who is due for a breakout season here in 2025 for LSU?
Yeah, they really attacked the wide receiver position in the transfer portal. They brought in 2 guys that are top 10 wide receivers in the transfer portal. But for me, when I look at this roster and just the rapport that Garrett Nussmeier has with a guy like Chris Hilton, these are guys that came in together in the same recruiting class back in 2021. Chris has battled some injuries here over the last couple of years with the Tigers, but when he's on the field and when he's healthy, you saw it last year in the last couple of games, him and Nussmeier have a real natural rapport on those vertical passes. You saw LSU's offense, really increase efficiently over the last couple of performances because they had that vertical threat with Chris Hilton. So if he's able to stay healthy, stay on the field for double-digit games, be that deep threat catcher that Nussmeier really needs in this offense, I think he's going to be poised for a really big season. I think he very much so could be in that 700 to 800 yard range with 6-7 touchdowns. I mean, he is a very quick, very fast, and really a well-rounded receiver at this point in his career. Just needs to stay healthy, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing with him this season, and a layer to this offense that could really kind of force it into the top 10, top 20 kind of range in 2025.
So we know it is Brian Kelly year 4 here for LSU, coming off a 9-win season. The first time in a minute we haven't seen 10 or more wins for LSU. We heard you say, Glenn, playoffs or bust. So how much pressure is he going to be under, Tom, to perform and get to the playoffs for 2025?
I think he's under a tremendous amount of pressure because, as we mentioned at the top of the segment, every LSU coach the last few, decades here has won a national title by the end of their 4th season. And we've also seen some of those coaches get the boot even quickly after winning a national title with Ed Orgeron. Of course, a lot of that was due more to off-field stuff than on-field issues, but this is the fact of the matter. Brian Kelly comes in from Notre Dame, and when he comes to LSU from Notre Dame, one of the reasons he gives for taking this job and leaving South Bend is that he didn't feel like he could compete for national titles at Notre Dame, but he could at LSU. Lo and behold, last year it was Notre Dame in the national title game playing against Ohio State while LSU was at home and not in the playoffs for the 3rd consecutive season for Brian Kelly. So I think when you come in with that bluster, you look at the history of this program and the expectations for it, I think the pressure's really high on Brian Kelly. I don't know if I'd say he's on the hot seat, but I do feel like this is a year where if they don't make the playoff, there better be a darn good reason for it, or else the heat will be turned up a lot on that seat.
Yeah, for me, I don't think there's any reason if LSU misses the playoff for them to really be any excuses. I mean, they have got to get this done with the amount of resources that they have poured into this roster this season. They are pushing all their chips forward. And for me, when you go back, and it's been since 2019 since LSU won its first game of the year, and that was obviously a championship season, one of the best teams of all time. But they have not won an opener since then. And I'm looking very hard at this week 1 game at Clemson. If LSU is able to go into Clemson and pick up a big-time win on the road against a team that's probably going to be top 10 in the country, they're not only going to announce themselves to the college football world, they are a playoff contender, but also a championship contender. And that is exactly what Brian Kelly wants here and what he honestly needs to have in year 4. So I'm very, very keen on this team. I think that they have a really good opportunity to come out and be the kind of group that Brian Kelly kind of envisions. They've had enough time now to get this roster in order. But that week 1 game at Clemson is going to tell us a lot about what this team looks like for the rest of the season.
All right, so let's get to the schedule prediction, Tom, because Glenn, you just mapped it out there with everything on the line for that season opener against Clemson. They open SEC play against Florida, and then their first game on the road against an SEC opponent is at Ole Miss, who you think they're going to lose to here, Tom. But yeah, walk us through your schedule prediction for LSU.
Yeah, turn up that heat, because I do not see the Tigers getting to the playoff this year. And I want to start by saying I'm a huge fan of the quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier. I think he is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft next spring. But I still have concerns about that defense, which we talked about earlier in the segment, and I am taking very much a need to see it before I believe it approach. So when I look at this schedule, I see 3 very difficult road games. The Clemson to open it, Ole Miss on the road, and Alabama later in the season. It's hard for me to imagine, based on what I have seen from this team in the last few years, that they will be able to go on the road and win those. Maybe they sneak one and they finish 10-2 and they get into the playoff. But like I said, I need to see it to believe it. I need to see that defense take a step forward at all 3 levels before I fully buy into what they're selling me. So I've got them going 9-3, which for just about every other program in the country, that's a hell of a season. For LSU, pitchfork time.
All right, Tom. Yeah, 9-3, a little bit more of the same. Another 9-win season for LSU, according to Tom Fornelli. Tom, Glenn, we certainly appreciate it as we look ahead to LSU and an outlook for the Tigers in the upcoming season. So, Glenn and the entire 24/7 Sports crew, they do a fantastic job leading up to the college football season, even in the offseason with recruiting rankings, team coverage, transfer portal updates. Make sure you check them out over at 247sports.com. We have more HQ Spotlight coming your way ahead.